The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Are the Clippers getting Bradley Beal?
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast.
Before we get into Beal, actually, I wanted to close the book on John Collins by saying that Lawrence Frank made a comment about him, and this was the official statement by the Clippers media. He said, "This was an opportunity to address a position and a skill set that we felt needed reinforcement. John is a power forward in his prime with great athleticism who can also play small ball 5. He scores at all 3 levels, excelling in space and transition as a runner, roller, and vertical threat. He stretches the court with his shooting and helps win the possession battle with his rebounding. We're excited to add John to the group." Couldn't have said it better myself. I said all those things, a lot of those things on the episode, so we know why we went out and got John Collins. And then this is what it was about Norman Powell. He said, "Norm has been a vital part of our organization over the past 3.5 years. We want to thank him for everything he did for the Clippers on and off the court. He's a true pro. He's also an incredible scorer, efficient, and prolific with a relentless work ethic. Norm is a huge reason we won 50 games last season, and we're going to miss him." That's what he said about Norm. So, great stuff from Lawrence there. He did a great job on this trade. But let's talk about Bradley Beal. So, this was the official news today on my Twitter timeline, and it was coming from our good friend of the show, Law Murray, saying that the Clippers are the likely leaders to sign Bradley Beal if he is bought out by the Phoenix Suns. Now, I've seen some people say that they're thinking it's going to be Beal getting bought out and coming to the Clips, and then CP3 going to the Suns, because then that would be a guard spot opened up. He probably won't start, because they'll probably start Jalen Green, Devin Booker, and Dylan Brooks, but he's going to be the third ball handler besides Jalen Green and Devin Booker. And with that personnel, considering like Ryan Dunn is probably your other starter in Phoenix, CP3 might be closing a lot of games in smaller lineups, especially with now that they have some big men depth with the rookie and Mark Williams. So, and I'll talk about the possibilities of getting CP3 and Beal in the next segment, but right now, just talking about Beal, how do I feel about hearing that? There's another report from Clutch Point saying that once Bradley Beal, it says once, not if, once Bradley Beal reaches a buyout agreement with the Suns, multiple playoff contending teams will have interest in him. However, Beal and the Clippers hold mutual interest, league sources told Clutch Points. Many teams are preparing for him to immediately sign with LAC. Isn't it crazy? Even though Beal's past it a little bit, like past his star days, it's crazy that like the Clippers are often front runners for players of the caliber of James Harden and Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, and like it's insane. The John Walls, the DeMarcus Cousins. I know they were on, past their primes, but it's just that never happened before. Like we weren't like that before. Nobody wanted to come to the Clippers. So Steve Ballmer, continues to make us a completely different organization. So I always try to tell people and try to tell you to keep perspective as a Clipper fan, especially if you've been here for the long haul longer than me, or even, Lob City and on, Sterling and on, you see the difference. So, but besides that, now looking at the actual basketball side of things, I've mentioned this. I would love Bradley Beal now that Norm's gone if he agrees to come off the bench. That doesn't mean he won't end games. That doesn't mean he won't be our third leading ball handler. Because he will be. It should be Harden, Kawhi, and Brad. I'm already calling him Brad, first name. I'm preparing for it. I used to love Bradley Beal. I just think he's shown complete unseriousness like the last 5 years. I saw it in Washington. There was that 2021-22 team. They had just traded Russell Westbrook for Kuzma and KCP. They weren't, and Spencer Dinwiddie, and I heard there was a lot of like beefing internally. But Beal just averaged 31 points a game. They weren't supposed to be that bad. And I remember at the beginning of the season, they were actually good, the Wizards that year. And then when I saw them play against us, and we came back from that deficit, and Beal was like looking like he wasn't even trying out there. I was like, and I went to a Wizards space and heard their fans just going off on him. And then I talked to my friend that was a Wizards fan. And he's like, I want Beal off the team. Like, it's kind of ridiculous, especially with what he's getting paid. He's not a leader. You know what I'm saying? But he wasn't when he was at his best. I wouldn't say at his best, but when he was at his most respected, I would say it was with Westbrook alongside him or with John Wall alongside him. With the Clippers, you would have Harden alongside him and Kawhi. He's a bona fide third option, which he was in Phoenix, but we have a different flavor. It's not three guys that want to work in the mid-range and score from three levels and or score first. You have a James Harden who's a pick and roll first guy. You know what I'm saying? You can argue. I don't like to say pass first because he's an attack first guy. You know what I'm saying? It's the modern point guard way. You don't come up the court and pass. He gets into his action and passes based off his scoring gravity, James Harden. So it's a much better role, in my opinion, for Brad. But I want him to come off the bench because if we start Beal, James, Kawhi, Collins, and Zoo, who is the guy that's going to take the best player on opposing teams to start games every night? And if people say Kawhi, they're missing the big picture. Never has Kawhi Leonard consistently in a season been the designated guy that goes out and guards the best player on our team the way Terrence Mann was deployed and the way Chris Dunn or Derrick Jones Jr. was this past season. No number one option in the league is doing that. So it should be no different for a guy with an injury history that's laundry list long and is on the older side of 33. He's not guarding the best player. And I know some people are going to say, well, Bradley Beal and James Harden will ease the load off of him offensively. Why do we want Kawhi Leonard's offensive load eased? Wasn't it like we wanted him shooting more in the playoffs? We wanted him to get more shots off? By the way, he's 34. He just turned 34. I don't know why I said 33. We should prepare this entire season as we play through Kawhi Leonard more so than we were playing through James Harden. Like the proportion of it has to be closer than James Harden averaging 4 minutes per game with the ball in his hands than Kawhi in the playoffs. We need Kawhi Leonard shooting 20 shots a game like he did in 2020, which I think was his best regular season as a Clipper, actually. And he's had some really good regular seasons as a Clipper. He was awesome in 2021. He was awesome in 2024. And he was awesome in 2023 in that stretch, when he came back. He's had some great, for the Clippers, all-time great Clipper regular seasons, all NBA. Like, we haven't had many all NBA players in our history. It's just the thing with Kawhi is it just hasn't always translated to the playoffs because of injury with us. And this past season, I mean, it wasn't there's 5 to 10 Kawhi Leonard series you can probably put over the one we just saw, in terms of his incredible resume in the playoffs. So my point is this: Kawhi Leonard guarding the best player on a nightly basis, out of question. We don't want that. We want him to be the guy that's averaging, for me, 20 shots a game. I think 2020 was his best regular season. I truly do. He just was really the best version of himself, taking over games. He looked the most athletic in that version, and he didn't have to defer to Paul George at all. It was just sometimes Lou Williams and Trez ran their two-man game late in games, but Kawhi was the guy. He closed out that game against the Jazz early on, did a good job closing opening night against the Lakers, closed out against the Raptors. A lot of home games that he closed out really well that first season. Unfortunately, it didn't translate to the bubble in that second round. But the other candidate would be John Collins, and John Collins is not a guy that you want guarding the quick guards and point of attack. Like that's, navigating screens and doing all that. You want him around the rim, being a help defender to Zoo.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups all summer long, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions, fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out. It makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I am part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
So the Spurs building the right roster around Victor Wembanyama.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast.
As the offseason is, somewhat in its infancy, the Spurs have been making some addition. Obviously, Dylan Harper in the draft. You got the big man Cornette, Carter Bryant. Now, are they done putting together a roster? Probably not, but we'll see how the offseason continues. But at this point, are they starting to build the right roster around Victor Wembanyama? Yeah, we're going to be discussing that, get into some Spurs news. We're going to pick one fan comment today and so much more. Let's go to bring in our guest to tackle this topic. He is back, everybody. Mr. Matt Guzman. He's with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN, who is going to Las Vegas. Apparently he's going to come back a richer man too, because I heard, you always win at the tables, Matt. You win at roulette, everything, right?
Absolutely. I bet it all in black, and so far I'm 100% successful. So I may go do it again.
There you go. And every time I've gone to the Vegas Summer League, and you get the downtime, I'm like, just play one or two hands, don't go crazy. I go crazy every single time. Every single time. Where are you staying at?
I mean, it's hard to say no. Yeah, I'll be on the Strip. I'm at the Vidara Hotel this time. I was at the Park MGM last time 2 years ago. So I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, let me tell you my first ever Las Vegas Summer League. Now, this was way back in the day, back when Vegas Summer League wasn't a thing. Like, it was not a thing to go to.
Yeah.
It was just whatever. I found a great spot. I'm looking at the review. Well, not the review, more like the location where it is to UNLV in the Thomas and Mack Center. I'm like, perfect. And they had literally a like the city bus that would just drive you, like not even like a 5-minute drive. I'm like, perfect. I'm gonna get it. It was the Hooters Hotel. That's what I still. It was the Hooters Hotel. It's no longer there anymore, but it's off the Strip.
Crazy.
But that was the closest hotel to UNLV Thomas and Mack Center, and I took it. I remember splitting it with a friend of mine, and I forgot about the deposit you got to put on before you even get to the room. So I had to eat into my extra savings and just only get that back when I'm leaving. So thanks a lot, Vegas. But you're gonna have fun. You're gonna have fun. Excuse me. You're gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be packed. So just be ready.
Yeah,
but
I'm expecting it to.
He said, I remember back in the day, man, you used to be able to get on the court. I mean, just sit on the freaking bench with these guys. Again, that's when the NBA was just desperate for any attention to give to the Summer League to build it up. But those days are long gone. But nevertheless, Matt, have fun. Be careful out there. Get to see Dylan Harper play one game. It'll be fun, right?
Yep, that's the goal. Hopefully he does play. We'll see.
All right, everybody. Once again, make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN. More on Spurs on Sports Illustrated later on this episode of Locked On Spurs. But Matt, you were here to ask the question: are the Spurs going in the right direction as far as building a roster for Wemby heading into next season? So you heard in the intro from Harper to Bryant to Cornette. Like they're going to do some moves in the future. Do you think they're going in the right direction to building that solid roster around Wemby?
I do. Yeah. And I think we talked about it a little bit before the episode. Like, there are several ways of looking at that question, or, different ways you can kind of interpret it. And in my head, when you put it in context with where the Spurs have been since getting Victor Wembanyama, I think that they are moving in the right direction. It was very clear, last season that they needed a backup big man. Whether they bring Charles Bassey back or somebody else still on that veteran minimum, we don't know what's going to happen. But at the very least, they went out and they signed a 4-year guy in Luke Cornette, somebody who, excelled with Boston, who is 7 feet tall, has a wingspan, is a very good interior rim defender. They absolutely went and addressed the need that they had. With Carter Bryant, they kind of fell into him a little bit, which we talked about a few weeks ago, but nevertheless, he addresses that need of shooting. Dylan Harper, you add another number 2, number 1 caliber talent. Dylan Harper is one of those guys where, if it weren't for Cooper Flagg, or, maybe if he was 2 years ago, if it weren't for Victor Wembanyama, he might be number 1. So I think overall this offseason has been really strong for San Antonio in terms of, taking where they were or where they were last season and getting better. And I think that that's honestly how I take the question. And so I think they're doing the right things, and I think it's been good to see.
Yeah, I'm with you. So far, so good. Are there holes? Yes, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But you like the direction they're going now. They got shot creators, so they don't have to worry about Victor just trying to do everything on the offensive end. From De'Aaron Fox, there's some offensive help. From Castle, we know he's going to bring some offensive help. You also have a just switchable guys that you can throw around Wemby. If you need a 3-and-D guy out there with him, you hopefully that will Carter Bryant turn into. We'll see how that turns out when the season starts. If he needs just slashers, to get to the rim because he's getting double, triple teamed, he has them with Castle, Fox, and it looks like more than likely Harper, not to mention Sohan and Keldon. So there's a lot of pieces around him to help up offensively, so he doesn't have to carry the burden. Now let's go shift it defensively. I think he has enough defensive weapons around him so far. Castle, just shined last year as the defensive perimeter guy, so check. Sohan, we know what he can do. He can just be a pest, get under the skin, so check. But do you think that's where perhaps he needs more help on the defensive end? Obviously I didn't bring up Cornette, there's that, but why does it feel like that's the area he needs more help with?
Honestly, the funniest thing about it all, it might seem like he needs more defensive help just because he hasn't won a Defensive Player of the Year award yet.
Right.
And I think, extenuating circumstances have kind of come in the way of both times, both years. And that said, I do think that defensively the Spurs are stronger when you compare it to their offensive side at the moment. And it's just because of Castle, and he's expected to take, another leap next season. Sohan is continuing to get better. You add Luke Cornette, who can kind of guard the rim specifically. I'm not going to call him an all-world defender, but he has a very good, presence right near the rim in the restricted area. And then you have Victor, who kind of fills in the gaps everywhere else. And so I think that, this team is built very strong on the defensive end. And, like we said, there's still options to add other players, and that is likely going to be a key factor in players that the Spurs are going to look to go get or go after or trade for, and I think that that's something that they to watch out for. But I guess to me, it might just be because he hasn't gotten the one award that he's been waiting to win since being drafted to the NBA.
Yeah, should have gotten it his rookie season, everybody. I think he should have gotten it then. But nevertheless, no, you're right. And I may be nitpicking here, but it just feels like defensively, perhaps, I guess, maybe I'm looking at this more defensive wings. That makes sense too, because we know Carter Bryant will hopefully turn into that. We'll see what happens. But Keldon, we've seen he gets burned a few times. Same thing with Devin. It feels like that position, maybe I should say, he need a little more beefing up. But nevertheless, though, we like the direction they're going. What I think the wild card in all this too is something we didn't bring up is the new head coach, Mitch Johnson. I think he factors into this whole constructing a roster, which does include a coaching staff to build around Wemby moving forward.
Yeah, well, we've already seen some of the moves that San Antonio's gone for, to open the offseason, bringing in Corliss and Sean Sweeney. I think, we're going to see a little bit more of Mitch's play style this upcoming season, because last year, he was trying to adjust to a role that he had never had before. He didn't have much preparation time besides, being told before Game 5 that, hey, you're going to coach. And so I think having a full off season, being inducted as the official head coach, everybody is operating around him as the head coach now. I think that we're going to see a little bit of different rotations. I know that was a big gripe of a lot of people last season. We're going to see some different ways that Victor is utilized. We're going to see different ways that Castle gets involved, especially with Harper and Fox to deal with as well. And so I think, when it comes to Mitch Johnson, we don't really know what it looks like because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen Mitch Johnson as a head coach yet. But, from the time he spent with the organization, to last season, getting a chance to get that experience, I think that he's going to start finding a way that he feels best, utilizing Victor Wembanyama. And, at that point, you go from there.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Look, they're saving you money already.
Anthony Davis, what are our expectations for him after this new injury surgery? I think the biggest news today is that Shams Charania, like kind of out of nowhere, which I guess this is going to be the norm with Anthony Davis sometimes. Shams Charania reports Dallas Mavericks All-Star Anthony Davis underwent a procedure to repair a detached retina he suffered during the season. Sources tell ESPN Davis played through multiple hits to the face last year. He is expected to be healthy for next training camp. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not a doctor. Talk to some that are. And this is weird. This seems weird to me. A detached retina can be as benign as like some blurry vision and just some uncomfortability in your eye. It can be all the way up to blindness. Like there is a spectrum of what this could be in so many different ways. I reached out to Brian Suderer, who does the great YouTube channel. He's a sports medical doctor that we have on all the time, and he said it is weird that it's happening now, that they're doing this procedure now. But he said it could just be a delayed diagnosis. They could not have known. It may not have been as serious, like that kind of stuff. It is a very strange thing. Somebody in our Locked On Maps listener reached out to us via text and said, I used to work in an eye clinic. If it was actually detached during the season, he should have gotten taken care of because more hits can make it worse. So that's not great. But he said that it's not a terribly painful surgery. You have to lay down on your face down for X amount of time. He said, I've seen people stay face down for over 2 weeks.
Just never moving?
I guess.
Oh my God.
Like, because you have to like keep your eyes like looking at
Shielded?
the ground.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to stay face down for over 2 weeks. That is absolutely insane. What would you even do for 2 weeks? You're just holed up with an ankle right now and you're going crazy a little bit.
I mean, that sounds actually terrible because I imagine they don't want you watching TV. They don't want you doing any of that stuff. If you think about it, they probably don't want you looking at any bright lights.
If you're dealing with that right now, and if you're Anthony Davis, you can listen to the audio program on Apple, Spotify.
That's true. I'd be listening to the podcast of topics I didn't even care about.
YouTube music, all that kind of good stuff. But with Anthony Davis, though, it's interesting. You want to wildly speculate and be like, well, that's why he's been struggling to shoot from three. It's like he had struggles last season. But I think to me, what I took away from this is Anthony Davis did put it all out on the line last year. Like played through injuries, tried to come back early. Like it's admirable to see him do that for this franchise that he just got dropped into, didn't ask for it, didn't ask for all the stuff that came with it, with him being in that trade and all that. And like, honestly, respect the guy because dang, like he put it all out on the line. This is another way where he probably had some uncomfortability with his eye, didn't really know what it was, and just kept playing through it.
Yeah, I mean, this is why, I've got a ton of respect for the dude. He thrust it into a impossible to win situation for him. And, I thought he played well, and I'm excited to see him as a member of the Mavericks moving forward. It's not his fault. He didn't make this trade happen or anything like that. So I never really appreciated some of the stuff I saw going his way. Never really felt fair to me whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, we knew with the stomach thing that he had, the abdominal thing that he was dealing with, him, it's an interesting thing because, Lakers fans have even told me this, that he gets hurt a lot. Yes, he misses time. Yes, he goes down with apparent injuries, frequently during games. But he does play through injuries, and he does try to be out there, and he does, go 100% to get out on the floor. So I've never really doubted that. And this one's just interesting because the reporting on it. I just think Shams is usually sensationalist with this type of stuff. Remember what was it? The Derek Lively injury. Didn't he all but say he was out for the rest of the season? Or Exum? I forgot. One of the Mavs injuries. He said he was done for the season, and then I think it was Exum where we just expected him to not play, and then all of a sudden he was back again. So right. So and then you had the Aaron Gordon grade 2 hamstring strain, and then he played the next day. Yeah. So I think he can be a little sensationalist with this stuff because my understanding is if it was a full detached retina that happened during the season, that they would have had to have gotten it fixed within days, or else you're talking about full blindness in the eye entirely. Is what how I was seeing it described.
Do you think shooting with one eye is different than shooting with both your eyes functioning?
Have you ever done that?
Your depth perception is all messed up.
Depth perception is terrible. I mean, yeah, it's I mean, who knows? Maybe he comes out next year to shooting lights out. And it's like, yeah, I just couldn't really see
that would be nuts. That would be nuts. He goes 40% 3-point shooter. But if he shoots 40% from three, honestly, the Mavericks are title contenders. Like,
okay, if Anthony Davis shoots 40% from three on the season, I'll donate $1,000 to a charity of Anthony Davis' choice.
I'll double it.
There you go.
To Anthony, we'll donate it to Comedy Central for Anthony Davis's next prank war special.
Mind you, his career high from three is 34%.
What was it in the bubble playoffs?
Bubble playoffs, it was 38. But I mean, still,
we're getting there.
Bubble playoffs was the mid range. The mid range was like automatic.
It was, and that's the swing skill that I think is interesting for him. But yeah, with Anthony Davis, I just think that's my takeaway is just we'll see on that, and you just hope he gets healthy through the offseason. Like, this is another thing, and I really hope he's healthy going into the season, because if he's not, you start the season with basically like Cooper Flag with some good role players, but like Flag is in the focus of your team for sure. It's a very different team than if it's Anthony Davis at full strength coming back, feeling motivated.
I mean, this won't be a good team if AD's hurt to start the season. Like, it just won't be. That's just the truth. So, I mean,
they'll be competitive, I think. But it'll be one of those things where you're competitive until the last like 5 minutes, and then games get blown because who's going to step up in that moment? Who takes pressure off of who? Because Anthony Davis would take pressure off of Cooper Flag, take pressure off of D'Angelo Russell. I just
I mean, knock on wood. I don't know what. I'm not like you said. I'm not a doctor. I don't. What could
I'm not a doctor, so
I forgot I had this one.
I don't know.
It's amazing.
What could happen for him to not be ready by training camp? Like, from everything I read,
with the eye,
everything I read, and people were saying that this is like kind of like what you were saying, a pretty straightforward procedure that you recover from like kind of quickly.
Well, yeah, and we have months, right? I mean, it's July, August, September. I mean, we got a couple months.
Yeah,
maybe
So I'm not even putting that
10 weeks.
I'm not putting that energy in the universe. He'll be back, and the
reports. You
know what my prediction is? We'll start the season, or we'll get to training camp. I'll be like, oh yeah, remember that eye surgery? Like, that'll just be one of those things.
It's gonna be. Oh yeah. It's going to be a footnote on the Anthony Davis story for the Mavericks. I mean, the Shams report specifically says he is expected to be healthy for next training camp. So
yeah.
Great. I mean, and that's so I guess we learned something. It changes not that much. Maybe changes my respect for him, right? Like that he played through something else through all this and through last season.
I just wonder how it happened. If maybe
he got smacked in the head a bunch.
He got smacked in the head, yeah. But I'm wondering, when did they decide, like, all right, maybe we should look into this? You know, if it was just like this lingering eye pain, and then they were like, all right, maybe there's something more to this than we thought, or did they know and they're like, hey, you're gonna have to get surgery on this at some point, and then this was just when they hammered it out? Like, I'm interested by that.
If I was really good at this job, I would come out and be like, Nico Harrison putting the players on the line with the training staff that wasn't ready and prepared, that wasn't qualified. You should start going off.
But you don't have to do that. They're already doing that on Twitter.
I mean, they're good at their jobs. You get paid now on Twitter. The real question in all this for Anthony Davis, slightly. Does he need to go goggles? Do we need full Kareem goggles now?
Goggles? What about just like an eye patch?
Do they have clear eye patches?
I was just thinking that. Just like, I just need to protect this one eye. Can you give me a clear eye patch?
A clear eye patch?
I'm sure they could invent one.
Someone is listening to this show being like, did these guys just talk about an eye for?
Hey, somebody in my chat today said that Dwight Powell needs to teach the team how to take hits to the face safely. Like how quarterback coaches will bring in baseball players to teach quarterbacks how to slide. They need Dwight Powell. 30 minutes of the first practice of the season.
Take a hit to the face. Ryan Nemhard did mention, he's like, I know of Dwight Powell from the Canada stuff. I haven't played with him, but I'm excited to learn from him, and that's probably one of the things that he was excited to learn is how to take a hit.
I wasn't expected to hear that. A Dwight Powell shout out from the rookies. It's like, yeah, I'm excited to play with Dwight.
Well, they're both team Canada.
No,
guys.
I know, but that would be hilarious if Flag said that. If Flag is like, I'm like, Dwight Powell's a guy that I've looked up to for a long time.
Dwight was also working out in the corner during practice today. So,
hey,
sometimes I'm like, does he live here? Or you just come
Face
in and
of the
he's
team
just,
in a lot of ways.
There.
What is it? Fourth longest tenured player in the league, I think.
The whole league?
Yep, something like that. It's like Steph, Draymond, Giannis, and Embiid and him.
And Dwight Powell, who was in the Rondo trade.